everyone, today we are back with a knitting video. I'm very excited about filming this video and getting it out of my brain and onto the internet and sharing it with you guys, because today I'm going to be talking about my 2025 knitting plans, the projects I want to make this year, and the yarn that I've already purchased for them. I'm very eager and very keen going into my second full year of knitting. Also, I wanted to film and tell you guys about some of my knitting resolutions, my goals for this year. I'm going to chat to you about my goals for the year first, and then I can move on to the patterns that I want to make, because some of those goals are reflected in the patterns I've chosen. So my first goal of the year is to knit a cable jumper. If you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I only have just completed my first full year of knitting. I would class myself as like an advanced beginner knitter. I've done some very beautiful projects already, but texture, like an all over cable, is something that I haven't really done before. In December last year, I made my first ever cable project, which was a very basic, very simple cable mittens, which I found so fun, and that was great at teaching me the basics of cables. And it was great because it was kind of a small project and worked out quite quickly, so I could find out if I enjoyed doing cables and if I was any good at it. Now that I've done that, I really want to make an all over cabled piece. Next up, I would really love to learn how to make a button band and knit up a button band on a garment. I've never done it before. It seems so difficult. Like, my mind can't get around how someone could make buttons, like put buttons on a jumper or a cardigan. I just can't imagine it, especially like lining them up. I have no idea how it's done. I know that double knit button bands are also quite a big thing at the moment. I just want to make a couple of garments this year with a button band and teach myself that new skill, improving my skill set, and I think they look super professional. I've only made 2 cardigans so far, and both of those have been kind of without any clasps, kind of just oversized and slouchy and open. They do look a lot more beginner than the kind of patterns that I want to lean more towards, so that is a skill that I'm really excited to teach myself this year. Another skill I'd love to learn this year is a saddle shoulder construction. I just think it looks so elegant to have that kind of construction on a jumper. I've never done that before. It's a skill that I would love to learn, so I've specifically chosen out a pattern or two that has that construction in my list of projects that I want to make this year. I have a feeling that saddle shoulders are going to be really big this year in the kind of pattern community, so I'm looking forward to teaching myself the basics of that. Next up, one of my biggest goals for the year is to write my own knitting pattern. I am so excited for this one. I have so many ideas in my head, guys, that I'm so excited to get down and make from scratch. I'm wanting my pattern that I write and make and create to be kind of beginner friendly, because I know a lot of my audience have never knitted or are very new to it, so I'd like it to be really achievable, but also I've got a couple of ideas that I haven't really seen before, so I'm just so excited to knit up and write my first patterns and have them launched this year. That is a big goal of mine. Stay tuned, because once I get my ideas on paper and start knitting up my garments, I'll be talking about those in a little bit more detail. Finally, this is more of like a personal knitting goal that I'm not sure I should share, but I'm going to put it out there in the universe, manifest that, you know. I would love to collaborate in some way with a knitting brand, whether that be collaborate on a pattern or collaborate on a colour of yarn, or work with a knitting brand in some sort of capacity, whether that be content making content for them, making content for my platforms. That is just a goal that I would absolutely love to achieve, and if that was to happen for me this year, like, now that I've got that goal in my head, I'm really going to try and work towards that. Fingers crossed for me. So they are my goals for the year, and now onto the patterns. So I've acquired and purchased a bunch of patterns that I would absolutely love to make this year. This is quite adventurous. There's quite a lot of patterns here, but I already have the yarn for a lot of them as well, and my gauge swatches swatched up. So I'm going to talk you through the pattern that I want to make, show you the yarn combination that I've chosen to make that pattern, and fingers crossed we can get through all of these projects this year. I'm very aware that plans change, things change, and that there might be new patterns that come out that excite me a little bit more. So these are kind of just open, but some of these patterns have actually been on my list for quite a long time, so I do think I am going to get around to all of these. I've got quite good willpower when it comes to using up yarn that I've purchased specifically for patterns that I have purchased to go with them. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the patterns that I'd like to make this year. Oh, I should also say this is quite Knitting for Olive heavy. This video wasn't intending to be. I just had to make an order on their website and I thought, why not just bulk buy for quite a few projects. So there's a lot of Knitting for Olive in this video, and some other brands as well. So the first pattern that I'm so excited to make this year is the Salty Days Sweater by Veronica Lindberg, aka Kuto Vakika. I am so excited to say I've actually nearly finished this. I'm filming this video at the end of January, so it's a little bit late with my goals, but to make my Salty Days sweater I'm going to be using my Knitting for Olive merino held double with also a strand of their soft silk mohair, and that is all in the colourway Limestone. In fact, I'll go get it for you. Here we go. So I have already started this project. In fact, I'm actually quite close to the end. This is the project that I've been working on throughout this year so far. And I've actually run out of mohair for it. So I'm just waiting for my next order to arrive before I can finish this. But oh my god, I can't believe I've made this so far. What an amazing accomplishment. I'm currently filming a project vlog where I document the whole process of me making this jumper, so that'll be coming to my YouTube hopefully in the next couple of weeks, because I don't think I have too long left on this now. I just need my extra mohair to arrive, because currently I've only got this much left for the entire sleeves. But I'm super excited to be able to wear this out. Limestone is a really pretty kind of grey toned white shade. I have had some problems with dye lots and colour matching, but I won't bore you with that in this video. You can wait for all that drama in the project vlog. But yeah, this is my first Make 9 garment that I was so excited to cast on this year, and I'm very nearly finished it. So that is boding very well for the rest of the year. The next pattern I'm so excited to make this year is vest number 8 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. This is an all over cabled v-neck vest, kind of like sweater vests, with 2 strands of yarn, so more of like a fingering weight and a mohair. And for that I am going to be using, again, Knitting for Olive. So it's 1 strand of their merino in the shade Oatmeal, which looks like this. It's kind of like a almost mould effect beigey brown shade, which I think is super pretty. And I'm going to be holding that with 1 strand of Knitting for Olive's soft silk mohair in the shade Powder, which is more of kind of like a pinky beige colour, but together I just thought that would be such a pretty combination. I've already done my gauge swatch, so I'll show you that here, but I have had a couple of issues with this gauge swatch. The first is I couldn't choose on the colour that I wanted to go for, the colour combination, so I actually did a tiny bit of half and half. So this bit here was done with Knitting for Olive's merino in the shade Cloud, also held with Powder. And Cloud is a really pretty, almost pink toned white cream, so that is what they look like together, versus Oatmeal, which is definitely more of a beige. So you can see those colour combinations knit up here in the swatch. Based on this, I definitely think I prefer the more beigey colour tone here, so I will be using Oatmeal and Powder, and I think that will just be so pretty. I'm imagining layering this up with a nice t-shirt underneath, and I think it will just be a really beautiful staple in my wardrobe. I did have another problem with my gauge swatch, which is that I was such an idiot when I made this. So this project is knit on 4.5mm needles. When I knit this up, I used one 4.5mm needle and accidentally, don't know why I did this, used one 5mm needle. So that is why the gauge is so open and also a little bit like offish. It's because one needle was slightly bigger than the other, which is very noticeable and does mean that my gauge is slightly off. But I'm not going to gauge swatch this again. I am just going to go for it when I'm ready to properly cast this on. And I think my gauge will be spot on if I just used the correct needle size. So very excited about this. This is my first all over cable project and my first vest and my first button band. Next up, a cardigan I'm really excited to make. This will be my first proper cardigan with a button band again. It is the chunky Mouline cardigan solo by Lean Home Samso, who is also known as Ellie Knits. I made her porcelain sweater last year and loved the pattern. Thought it was very easy to read instructions, so I'm looking forward to knitting my second pattern from her. For this, I am using a yarn that I bought on my holiday in Copenhagen last year, which I'm so excited about. And it's my first ever Isager purchase. So this is Isager... please excuse my awful shoddy pronunciation. Isager Jensen yarn, which is 100% wool, and I got the shade 54, which is this beautiful navy. I'm really into my navies at the moment. I just think they go so well with all skin tones, especially pale skin, and I'm just so excited to knit up my first proper cardigan with a button band. I need to pair it with a mohair, so I've decided to team it up with, you guessed it, Knitting for Olives soft silk mohair in the shade navy, which looks like this. So it's slightly darker, but together they make the most beautiful navy swatch. I have done my swatch for this. I cannot find it for this video, which is such a shame because I was so excited about showing it. It's such a beautiful colour combination using these two yarns. I think I did take a picture before I lost it, so I'll insert it here. It's knit on 5mm needles, so I think it would be a relatively quick knit, but I'm really missing something like this from my wardrobe and so excited to cast this on. So I'm not sure when I'm going to make this, maybe more towards the spring, because I think it will just be a really nice staple to wear all year round, perfect for layering in the summer. This yarn does feel slightly itchy. It feels quite rough. I did block my gauge swatch. It did soften up slightly, but as it's a cardigan, it's not going to be really directly on my skin anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. But caked up my first ball, which is so pretty, and I'm just really excited to get working on that. Has anyone else knit the chunky Mouline cardigan solo? Do let me know. And also, has anyone used this yarn before? Let me know what you think about it. It is quite rough, definitely the roughest yarn I've ever used, but I'm hoping it still be quite a nice knitting experience. Next up, I am so excited to be casting on the Monday sweater. This is a very popular design by Petite Knit. There are almost 3,000 Monday sweaters on the Ravelry, which is absolutely insane. It's such a well-loved jumper pattern, very simple, very basic raglan construction, knit up on 4mm needles. And for this project, I'm so excited to be using this stunning hand-dyed yarn that I purchased again in Copenhagen. This is the Cislerigette Merino Singles, which is 100% merino superwash yarn in the shade Candy Clouds. And I don't think I even really need to explain why I'm so excited to use this. It is just the colour combination of absolute dreams. There are so many beautiful, almost opalescent pastel shades in here, and I just think this will make the most beautiful jumper. Now, I do have the matching mohair for this, but I'm actually going to use that in a separate project, which I'll tell you about in a second. So I needed mohair to hold with this, and I have chosen Knitting for Olives soft silk mohair in their undyed shade. And so this is like, yeah, just an undyed kind of yellow toned white mohair, and I think that will just go so well because the base of this is slightly undyed and kind of creamy. So I wanted a mohair that would kind of complement and match that, rather than just a stark white mohair, which I think would look a little bit jarring maybe. So I've made my gauge swatch for this. I am so happy with how it's come out. I've only done half the gauge swatch, but it does match gauge for stitch count. And oh my god, I'm so excited. I just think this will be such a nice, easy to wear staple jumper, but with a very subtle colour speckles on it. I'm really looking forward to knitting this jumper up. I know that it's one that so many people love. I just love this. I feel like in different lights you can kind of catch the different shades in there, and obviously it's such a small swatch, but I think all together it would be so pretty. I have 3 hanks of this Candy Clouds Merino. Here is one of them all wound up, and you can see the colour like variation is really well like spread out. But because this is my first hand-dyed yarn project, I am a little bit worried about how that will look like if you'll be able to tell the difference between skeins. So I am thinking maybe I'd love your advice on this. If I need to alternate skeins or hanks, do let me know what you think for this project, if you've used hand-dyed yarn before, if you think it's really necessary for a jumper like this. But yeah, very, very excited to cast this on, probably ASAP. I'm looking forward to working on something kind of easy, like a nice easy breezy stockinette project alongside some of the more textured cable knit designs that I'm making this year, like vest number 8. Beautiful. That is a project I'm so excited about. And then also I have chosen a project to make with my matching mohair. This is the Sisley Jet silk mohair, again in the shade Candy Clouds, and this one definitely is a little bit different. It has the same tones, but they're slightly darker. You can see here, here's a big patch of blue, whereas here, so in the merino, it's definitely a lot more muted. So I again wanted something kind of cream based to match this kind of more subtle cream shade, and for that, you guessed it, I have chosen Knitting for Olives merino in the shade Undyed. So again, the undyed version of their merino wool, which I again just think will complement so beautifully with this kind of cream base. What do you guys think of that? Oh, I haven't even told you what the project is that I'm making with these. I'm going to be casting on the Cognac Sweater, which is a pattern by Atelier Casting. It's a really beautiful sweater with a construction that I haven't made before, so I'm really excited about knitting this. It has a couple of different options for the neckline and the sleeves. One is ribbing and one is an I-cord edge. I think I'm going to go for the I-cord edge just because I only have 2 balls of this and I don't want to run out. So this project, by the way, is perfect for if you don't have very much yarn, because it's knit on quite an open gauge, and you only need, for a size small, you only need under 700 meters of yarn, which equates to about 2 or 3 skeins. So yeah, you don't need much yarn for this project at all, which is why I chose it for this beautiful mohair, because I cannot get this anywhere in the UK. I've tried so hard to find more of it so I can make like a bigger piece, but I cannot. I've done my gauge swatch and I was off. This is knit up on 6mm needles. I used that and my gauge is too big, so I'm going to be going down to 5.5mm needles for this project. So this is a lot more open than I want it. I think that is way too open for this jumper, but you can still see that kind of speckled mild effect that you get with that Candy Clouds mohair. Again, kind of looks opalescent, so I'm really looking forward to knitting this up. I am going to gauge swatch again with smaller needles, 5.5, just going down 0.5mm. I'm again very excited to knit on this, and I think it will work up super quickly. This is what that mohair looks like. The Cognac Sweater is basic stockinette sweater top down, and it has short row shaping and also a contiguous set-in sleeves, which is something that I don't think I've done before, so looking forward to learning some new skills in this project. Another project that I already have my yarn for, and this is a project that I've had this yarn for since August. It's been a while and I still haven't casted it on, but I really want to make Blouse No. 1, again by My Favourite Things Knitwear. This is such a beautiful simple top garment. It's kind of like a boat neck, a very popular pattern. It's kind of got bell sleeves and a fitted silhouette, and for this I'm using the recommended yarn, which is Knitting for Olives Pure Silk, held double, and I have chosen the shade Cream. I'm very aware that there's a lot of cream and kind of neutrals that I'm making this year, which does make me sad because I do like my pops of colour, but I'm hoping that accessories that I make this year will add those little pops in my outfits. I bought this yarn at the Oxford yarn store in Oxford. I went there on a little solo date when the weather was nice and warm and picked up a sweater quantity of this. I've never used Knitting for Olives Pure Silk before, and I haven't gauge swatched for this yet, but I am so excited to make this project. It's knit on 5mm needles, and it is worked from the top down, and the sleeve and yoke I worked using the contiguous method. So lots of new skills I'm sure that I'll learn during this project. I'd love to know if you've made this. It seems like a super popular pattern. Only a couple more that I actually have yarn for. The first is the mixed Rib Cami by Handmade by Florence. Again, in Knitting for Olive. This is a project that I purchased last spring and haven't really got that far on, so this is something that I really want to push myself to finish this year. This is the top back section, and again I'm using Knitting for Olive's merino in a navy shade, which is so pretty. I just want to hold it next to this. Yeah, they go so well together. This is just one strand of merino, so it hasn't got any mohair in it, but it's knit on the smallest needles. I want to say like 3mm, 2.75, so it's going to be a very long project. But this was one that I was taking around with me on the train, and it has a really pretty mixed kind of twisted rib design on it. And I just think this would be such a nice strappy top to wear all year round. Very effortless, very glam and classic. And again, just very excited to have a finished navy garment in my wardrobe. Okay, there are some more projects that I don't have the yarn for, but I thought I'd quickly mention them here. First is sweater number 29. Again, my favourite things knitwear. This is all over textured cable sweater that I really want to make this year. I've already purchased the pattern for this particular jumper, but I might change my mind at some point. I haven't purchased the yarn yet, so I'm not really sure what I'm going to use, but probably recommended. The recommended yarn for this project is actually Isia Jensen, which is a bit of a coincidence. I sadly only have 400 grams of this, which is why I'm doing the cardigan with this particular yarn. But that's good to know. If I end up liking this, I could well purchase it again for this. The reason that I chose this pattern is because I really like the saddle shoulder, but that really drew me to it, along with the all over kind of oversized cable fit. I would also love to cast on and make the Terracotta Sweater this year. This is another pattern by Ellie Knits. Very similar to the porcelain sweater in its construction, but more of kind of like a mosaic style colourwork pattern. I also really like the textured knit detail between the colourwork patches. The porcelain sweater took me about 6 weeks to make. I did an entire project vlog. If you want to see the making of that jumper, I'll link it up here, and I loved every minute of it, especially learning a new skill such as colourwork on a jumper. So this is one that I'd really like to make this year. I'd love to use the white, like a white cream and a black shade. I actually have a sweater's quantity of this Knitting for Olive merino in the shade Cloud, so I could well use that alongside a black yarn. I think I have 5 balls of this, so I would just need to buy a matching mohair to go with this and then the black shade, but that is a definite option. Just purchased and would love to make the Ranunculus pattern this year. This is a pattern by Midori Hirose, and I don't think I really need to introduce this pattern. It was one of the first knitting patterns I ever came across when I first started knitting, and it has 27,000 projects on Ravelry, so this is like by far the most popular knitting pattern I've ever kind of come across. I think the reason it's so popular is because you can use any type of yarn for this project. There are options for different gauges and different yarn types and weights in this pattern, and also it's very customizable. You could do long sleeve, you could do short sleeve. It's kind of down to you what you want for this project, which I think is why it's such a popular pattern. I found a project on Ravelry which was knit up using drops brushed alpaca silk, and I thought that was such a nice combination to use with this pattern because it's kind of got that lace work on the yoke. I think it adds a very romantic feel to have such like a lightweight airy gauge on it. Sorry, my cat is being an absolute pest today. Yeah, you can use like lace weight yarn, light fingering to worsted weight, and different needle sizes, so I guess this project will be quite a quick knit. I quite like the idea of doing like a long sleeved, maybe 3/4 length sleeve version. Very excited about casting that on. I actually have some more yarn combinations and colours that I haven't mentioned here because I feel like this video is going to be so long otherwise, so I will keep you updated with my progress on all of these patterns and yarn acquisitions and all of that in my frequent knitting podcasts, so I would absolutely love it if you could subscribe and stay tuned. Very excited to update you on my progress with all of these projects this year. Let me know if any of you are wanting to make the same patterns, because then we can make some sort of knit along. Oh, I have another goal this year, is to make some knitting friends. I love the knitting community and I love this new hobby and skill and passion of mine, and I would really love to make some friends in the knitting community that I can hang out and knit with and chat all things yarn and patterns and everything with. That is something that I'm missing from my life and really craving. I know that I've met some of you guys out and about at knitting conventions, which I have so enjoyed, and I've spoken before in a vlog about potentially setting up some sort of, I don't know, London knitting group or chat, or some way that we can all get together and communicate. That is still pending. I'm still working out the best way that I can do that, but major goal for me this year is to attend more knitting groups, more knitting clubs and workshops and classes, and try and make some good friends within the knitting community. I'd love to have a friend that I can just go to the cafe with and knit, message when a new pattern comes out and that we're really excited to make together. If any of you are wanting to make any of these same patterns, do let me know. I would love to like keep each other updated on the progress that we're making. That would be so fun. There are also loads of accessories that I would want to make this year. I'm not going to talk through those today because we would be here all day, but stay tuned for my knitting podcast because I'll be keeping you updated on that. Lots of love, guys. Mwah.